Right, okay, that's recording now. All right, so just welcome, Wendy. Welcome to our chat today. This is one of the Soul Sisters meets. Hi. So Wendy's over in Ibiza, and she's one of our collaborators from Ibiza. Bex and I have got people over in Ibiza simply for the reason that, you know, obviously, you know, Wendy, I lived there for a long time. Bex lived there for a long time, and that's where we met. So we wanted to keep the connection, as you always do, to Ibiza. It never leaves you, does it? And you never really leave it. So you're a collaborator on the site from Ibiza, and you are also, your business is Wendy Love Bites. No, Love Bites, sorry, isn't it?
Wendy Love Bites Ibiza. Right,
Wendy Love Bites Ibiza. And you specialize now in like vegan and raw food.
Yeah, I'm a private chef with vegan, raw and vegetarian foods.
Okay, but you're also available to sort of do teaching online and stuff. I know it's easier out of season, but you're also available to sort of
I've done workshops before, but physical workshops in people's houses. In the winter time, over a period of years before COVID, we were doing workshops in the winter, teaching people to cook healthily. It was called back to health workshops with the cooking. Yeah, and it was great. This is why I would cook, because it's the service to help people eat properly for their bodies.
Yeah,
that was the reason behind it. Yeah.
So not everyone on the site. So people on the site we've got through the business, but I actually know you personally, don't I? So we go back a bit. we're sort of proper soul sisters. So like, I officially met you on my 30th birthday when you cooked the curries for my 30th at Home Bar.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how I met you.
That was all I know.
So I met you through food.
Always,
so
I loved it down there. It was that was so like makeshift, but we actually turned out some really nice food there between Rick and me.
That was a good party. Like that, I have to explain to them. This was like a party in the back of a bar in the back of San Antonio that was basically like the winter hangout, wasn't it, for everybody who lived there all year round. And yeah, it was a messy little place full of pirates and vagabonds, but it was a really good little community, wasn't it? Like we had there
was a lot of love going on. And that year was what year was that? 2013 or 2012? Because there was a big attention going on in that year, you know, there was big changes going on, planetary. It was the beginning of the wake up, I think. And that year was, I think it was that year, if I'm right. And that was a very shifting year for everybody, I remember.
It was 2012. It was November 2012, so it was the end of 2012.
That was it.
That night was my 30th birthday, and I met you, and I met the father of my children that night. So that was a big night for me. But unbeknown to me, I'd seen you about, because I'd worked in San Am for a few years, but I was a Bay girl. So you were either a Bay girl or a town, weren't you? Like, and I always worked in the Bay. But I had seen you about because you were a friend of Maddie's. But what I didn't know until later was that you were Yesse's mum, because I'd worked with Yesse for a couple of years at Tulp. So he was another like close mate of mine. So it was a connection, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah. He knew you, Franky. Yeah.
So I'd known your son like really well, because when you work, it's intense, isn't it? When you do a season together.
Yeah.
Because you work so hard.
Where was that you met him at? Where was that
We
work?
worked at Tulp, you know, the Dutch bar.
Ah, Tulip.
Yeah. So
he was telling me about that the other day. He said to me, I love that job, Mum, because he lived over the road and he just had to walk to work.
Yeah, he lived behind his dad, didn't he? Like, and it was it his dad's flat or something?
No, it was his dad lived behind, more in the countryside, but it was the first time he shared a flat with a friend. And it was just over the road from there. And he said to me the other day, so I love that year because I didn't have to take the car, you know, around, because he just said in 5 minutes I was in work. I said it was great. We enjoyed working for them. Yeah, it was a nice time for him.
It was a good job. It was a nice bar, and like
they're very professional.
Paul kept his standards so high. Like you know, it was a hard job because you were on task all the time, but also we had a laugh. You know, we had a really good laugh, and
great people.
The product was good and the bar was beautiful, and you got a sunset every night. It was like yeah, a little piece of
They were
paradise.
going for a long time. They've been together for years before that. I mean, they were one of the old people that set up in the beginnings in the 80s, all the big tourism and bars and that. They were in the beginning. Like a few around there, you know, that's around the base, still a few, but a lot have gone now. But they were one of the originals, and they've worked really hard to get where they got. You know, it's like Rita's Cafe.
Everybody knew Paul. Everybody knew Paul. You know, the people that used to come out, and they used to have a little bar. I think it was, oh God, what was the name of the bar? The one that was sort of down in one of the back streets. I don't remember. They had a little bar, didn't they?
Yeah.
But, yeah. So you just mentioned the 80s there. So my story in Ibiza starts in 2009. So you were there in the 80s. How did that happen?
1984 I came first. Yeah, wow. That was the transformation for me, because I've been in England and I've been going to theatre school, and I was meant to go to theatre school, and I got into 2 colleges in London, and I was still studying. I was in between theatre school, studying. I was still doing extra O levels, you know, stuff you do, and then I was coming up to the point to make a decision whether to go into London, and I got invited to go to Webber Douglas and Findhorn theatre schools, which was like a 5-year theatre, and then I came to Ibiza. And in 84 it was wild. I was 19 and we stayed the whole summer. We worked here and we were working in the clubs. I worked in Ecstasis Club, which was it was like going into another planet when I came here. It was going to another planet, completely transformation of what life can be when you're free, when the spirit is free. So it was a wake-up call for me, you know. And then after that summer we went back home and various things happened. I still didn't go to this school because I was like waiting to, you know, obviously in the end I didn't go because I came back to Ibiza in 87, and that was my last time to say, well, am I going to go back or not, you know. And that year I met Jesse's father, so we fell in love and it was beautiful, you know. So obviously I rang my parents up and said I'm not coming back. And my whole life changed. And do you know what, life in Ibiza has been like live theatre. I'm glad I didn't go into the theatre because it's a hard industry and it's a very dark industry. I've found that out later. You know, a very dark industry, and it's like, you know, I'm glad, you know, it's like a real turnaround. And this has been live theatre, and it's been such a colourful time, because the thing is that we are here to enjoy ourselves and create and not to suffer. Rita represented that at a very young age. To see that was a great wake-up call, because why be around negativity when you can be around positivity? And that's what brought that to me. So I felt like I was shining here. So I noticed that. So I thought, right, I'm going to stay here. I always loved the sun anyway. I never liked the cold. When we were younger, my mum and dad, luckily, we went on holiday to nice places like Mallorca, Sicily. So I saw this at a very young age, my teenagers times. And I just thought, yeah, the sun is where I've got to be, you know, with the sunshine. That was another draw to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thing about the food, I never liked meat. When I was growing up, I never really liked the texture. So for me, it was sort of normal. I was going to go that way because I rejected the meat. I didn't like the texture in my mouth. It didn't feel right to me. I ate fish more because my mum prepared that for me. But little by little, in between going to Ibiza and studying, and I was doing temping jobs. And I went to work for a week in this place. It was a Bowyer's factory, pork factory, making pork pies.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I was in the offices. I wasn't even in the factory. I was in the offices doing, you know, like doing secretary there. It was a temping job, you know. But I saw the whole thing of it. I saw the pigs coming in the morning, in the squealing, and then in the evening you see the pies coming out. This was what woke up to me that time, was the industry that was involved, and it just wasn't fair, you know. And then I realized why they didn't me as well. It was more than the reason I didn't like it. I think I was connected that I didn't want to do that in this life, you know. Maybe in another life I'd eaten a lot of meat, but it was no. So that was a wake-up call. So after that week, I definitely decided I want to go back to it. I wanted just to get out of England and go to Ibiza, you know. I think that was it. And then I came back, as I said, in 87, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. So your son, Ibizenko, born there, raised there, you know, what a life, you know. And I know that you did the whole living in the campo, countryside, you know, living free with him all through his childhood. So yeah,
so lucky, again, such a privilege.
All of these things that we as parents or sort of millennials and stuff are all thinking, oh, these are new ideas. You've been at this a long time and you've lived it. And
I was born too soon, really. I've been, you know.
No, you were a pioneer, bloody maverick. You paved the way.
They're born too late or born soon, born too soon, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I suppose so. There was a few of us here on the island. Obviously, that's what I hooked into. There was a big party scene here, and that was great as well. I loved to have party and dance and all that. But what attracted me was the country life. It was like going back 20 years in the 80s. So you're like stepping back in time, and the experience was so natural here. It was unaffected. It was easy to live here. It was cheap to live here. And there was so much wonder. I mean, I just was in wonder state for like 20 odd years of living here. I've been in 38 now. Well, 38 is when I came in 84, but basically the first 25 years I can honestly say was like living in heaven on earth, because I was in such a happy state, you know, and all my stuff, my family history had gone behind me, but there was stuff going on. But I was lucky to bring, and I think this is what hit our souls, was we just abundance for many years living here in beauty and love, and well, I walked the walk. I was eating vegetarian. I started meditating at 23. I was initiated with this master, and we're all meditating. So you go on this path of spirituality and you go inwards, you know. And here's the temptation here, because we have a very outward expressive time here, and also there's a very spiritual inward time here, and it's always been that way. Even from the very beginning, there's always been the fine line between the two lives. So you go up into the hills, I mean, which I did in 84. I met a few people that were staying up in, and this was great because, you know, you tend to stay around San Antonio when you're younger, but as soon as you go up into the hills, there was so much magic going on. I couldn't believe the countryside. It was talking to me. It was like, I was like, and Jessie's dad took me to Esbrolles one morning. The sun was rising, and we went to Esbrolles, which is where it's the last work of the Phoenician waters coming down the mountainside, and they go into these pools. I don't know if you've been there. It's absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
And we went there that morning, and that was it for me. It was with Jessie's dad. I thought I was in Babylon.
Well, I was lucky to, you know, I was like a typical worker. I was living in San Bay and working in San Bay, but from quite early on, I was seeing this Irish lad who was a real, like, I mean, it was a disaster of a relationship in many, many ways, but he was a real adventure soul, and like he couldn't sit still, and he had a motorbike, and anytime either of us had an evening off or a day off, he would just take us, you know. So luckily I was seeing, you know, all these little amazing places on the island that, you know, gave me a real sense of, this is not San Antonio. This is not a party scene. I did the partying, I did the drugs, I did all the things that everybody does. I did the working 60-hour weeks while I was doing it all. But I got the real sense from right at the beginning of just what, because it's a tiny place, you know, and I'm from Manchester, which is like, you know, 10 million people, big, tall buildings, blah, blah, blah. But this was such a tiny place that had, it's so diverse when you start looking at it, you know, from one area to another. Even just,
I used to soul here. It wakes your soul up. It's very intense, and that's why people sometimes lose it a lot, because they're not ready for the light that come in. You bring in a lot of light here. There's a lot of light, so you have to need to hold it, you know. But this is and we can hold it, but we have to learn to uncondition ourselves from systems that have been a lot stronger. You know, we've all been growing up in systems that are so conditioned. So Ibiza for me was like, oh my God, because in that time, it was just a flowing energy of beautiful cultures. And it really, I mean, now it's all got more because it's become expensive, and the whole corporates bought into it. This is before corporates were here, you see. This is the difference. There was no corporate businesses here in the 80s still. So that's why I was going back in Dublin. They saw, you know, now, I suppose after the 2000, it was all catching up, you know, and they bought in. And so the whole laws changed, the new roads were done. But for those first sort of 15, I'd say 15, 20 years, I was managed to feel that feeling of how life should be, actually. We've gone too far. You know, that's what it represented. We were fine that way. It was just okay. Everyone lived in abundance, and we didn't have wealth like there is now here. It was a different wealth, you know. It was a cultural wealth, a love of all artists, and we could all live here without worrying about working 9 till 5. But now suddenly all these rich people came here and ruined it, because they were like, oh yeah, high tech, high lifestyle, we want money, we want, and that. So everyone's got to work now, and the whole prices have gone up, and it's happened all over the world, you know. But I'm just grateful I had a piece of that in this life, of a style of life which I think we're walking towards now again. The whole world is walking towards, because
but
there's
again,
no other way
this is where you're going to be. This is where you can. you can be the maverick pioneer that you are, and you can guide people back to, because there is a way to live much more simply that doesn't depend on those sort of high-end systems.
It was very scarce here in the 80s.
You out of that slavery.
Yeah, very scarce here, but that was good because we didn't have stuff in here. I think there was no sort of, I remember going to the supermarkets and most of it was local products and then stuff from Spain, and that was it. You could not get stuff from England. I think I remember seeing the first time cornflakes were here, you know, which was like Kellogg's. Honestly, and people still have black and white televisions in the 80s here. It was really like going back 20 or 30 years. It was wonderful. People didn't have hoovers. I remember seeing the women sweeping with brooms and thinking that was so quaint, you know, because it hadn't quite got, you know, but it soon caught up like everywhere. But amazing experience. And it made you self-sufficient. And that living on the earth was great experience, which I did that was like the late 90s when we got that house. And that house is like 250 quid a month for 3-bedroom farmhouse, 6 fields, my own water, my own balsa of water. I mean, when we got that house, I was like, oh my God, I remember walking around there naked and swimming in the balsa. We cleaned it all. We put fish in there. And I was swimming in the fishes and thinking, God, this is just too much. And it was too much because it was just enough to live, but with all the nature around you. And for that price, you know, it was like quality life. A very little quantity, you know. It didn't cost much. That's what Ibiza was.
See, we lived on a farmhouse, like a big house share, but in season it was a certain price, but then in winter it was 450 quid a month, and there was 6 of us living there, so it was just nothing, you know.
That's how it is.
And again, we had fields, we had it was beautiful. It was the family home of, you know, Pep Pink Panther. It was his family home. So it was up the back of St Anne, but you were looking out onto onto St Augustine, and all. He started into that.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. You know, we got sunrise every morning. We got moon. I'd never seen a moonrise. I'd never ever seen one. I thought the aliens were landing because I was like,
they probably were.
Swear to God, I was at the back on my own one night and the moon started to rise and I thought, well, what the fuck is going on here? Like, you know, proper townie, had never known the like of it. But yeah.
But how beautiful is that? The nature. You see, Ibiza's it's small still. We haven't got very big buildings either. This is one thing. So you see the sky always, the light. There's many elements here in the nature that I've realized over the time and become really close to, really connected to. And it just lifts me out. I don't need much more now. I'm really, really connected, you know, but I've connected myself to that. Obviously, it's the thing you do, because I know a lot of people that do live here and they tend to not appreciate that. And I mean, it's like, well, all we've got is that really at the end, you know. And that's why with the food, it's always been related. You know, I'm so fascinated with food. I find it amazing that nature has given all these food to us that grows in the earth, which we will go back to. We are soil. And that we eat this and our body is then nourished. And that's it. It's as simple as that. You know, and that was all part of the story really that came all together by growing my own food and then really feeling connected with it. There's nothing like planting your own vegetables and actually picking them that day and using them to eat with, because you're getting electrolytes. And this is what my son grew up with, all that, you know. He's a beautiful soul. He's not ever been vaccinated. He was born at home. No doctor has ever touched him.
Yay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, just follow the nature. That's always been my, you know, we have everything there to cure ourselves. This is my message with the cooking. It really is. You know, it's always been about that. It's developed over the years because, for example, here we didn't have tofu. So there was an American woman, Nora, making it from her home. And then I had a restaurant in Ibiza town. I have had a cafe. I had a cafe in Ibiza town, no, in San Antonio when I was very young. Jessie was like 2. And we were given that cafe. We didn't have to pay rent. It was me and my friend Emily, who writes books now, and we had this cafe. We called it Millie Waves, like the cafe from the, you know, that book. What was it? I can't think of it now. Anyway, so we had that, and that was given to us. We just had to pay the electricity and water. And the guy said, "Oh, have this cafe." And it was up in the market in San Antonio, in the club. And we had that. That was an experience. And we were just cooking our stuff because, and this was people like were just discovering all this food. Then it was like, you know, we were making carrot cakes and I don't know, quiches without using milk products, and we were doing the tahini sauces then and stuff like that. And then from there I had the restaurant. In between that I was working in Escanar doing the markets and making the hair braiding, because I mean, you know, you do anything. It's like, then I started making tofu and seitan, which was a protein for vegetarians, because we didn't really get it here. So then I started selling that from home. I made it from home, and I was selling it around the island. I had clients, and they'd ring me up, and I'd go around with my fridges and selling it, and they'd order the week before so many tofus and seitan, and I'd sell that, and that was a little business that kept me going in the winter, you know. And in the markets in Escanal, Las Dalias, and Playa del Bosso, I used to do 3 markets, and I do the braiding and the hair braiding and selling clothes. I had this stall behind, but then I'd be with my fridges selling tofu and seitan to the store holders, not to the clients, because we couldn't do that. But people that were selling, because we're all, a lot of us were vegetarians then, you know, we didn't want to, you couldn't get it on the island. So I used to make 10 kilos. I had a press, and I made 10 kilos. I've got photos of this in the farmhouse, making 10 kilos of tofu every week. And that got around, you know. So yeah, it was great. You know, out of need, we do things, and that's what it was all about here, really. So it was a pleasure to have that need.
That's so funny listening to you, because like obviously we've known each other on and off for 10 years, as we're discovering. I'm coming up for 40 now, but like I've never had that conversation with you. I used to do the markets. I used to sell vintage clothes, and
that's right, I remember that.
And do feather extensions in people's hair. So how mad's that? Like, you were on the markets doing braiding and clothes, and I was doing clothes and feather extensions. Like,
great, I love the market life as well. That was a great time.
Oh, the market life,
great. The markets. And this is how you learn the language. I learned Spanish like that. I was mixing with all the Spanish and
that's where
the different cultures, you know. Yeah,
that's where it really came on for me, and then ended up teaching, because you have, when you make that commitment to live there all year round, which, you know, again, I did after a couple of years of coming and going. You do realize that you have to become a bit of a jack of all trades, don't you? Because you've got to have these streams, but also you've got to be flexible. You've got to be linked into different areas.
I've never lived here for money. I've never come here to make money. I came here to live, and I still don't want to make money. You have to. I came to the place I love, so that's it. I'm here now. So where do I need to go? Nowhere. So I've always, since I found Ibiza, for me, it was always just to maintain a lifestyle. And it's been hard in the last years, because obviously you don't want to go, you know, but you know what? It's actually easy, because I've got less habits now. So, I mean, I don't like eating out anymore, because I'm, you know, prefer to eat my own food. So really what I enjoy is the sunsets or the sunrises, and they're free. So, you know, in the nature, just hanging out with friends sometimes, and simple life now. But I'm older as well. I can say that now, because I must admit, I wasn't there, you know, I've been wild in my times, and I've been out, you know. Ibiza allows you to dip in and out of different situations as well. And I think here we come up against our shadows, our dark shadows, if we may do that, you know, if we want to. And I certainly came into a few of mine, and I lived a few years really out on the Lima, really out on the Lima. Not the Wendy that's sitting here now, but the Wendy that had stuff to work out, the Wendy that had to go through the dark side of her soul. And I certainly did it here. And I think if you just keep loving your heart and connected to the nature, you can get through it. You know, that's what helped me, because I had a lot of family issues and history to sort out with my ancestors. And this happened over the years, and now I can recognize it. When I was in the middle of it, I knew I kind of let go and let live. And I remember thinking, because thank God you know, meditation is really good for us. And I started meditating very young. So even in my those 5 years that I was in the nightlife again, this is when Jessie was grown up, and I went back into living in the nightlife. But this is when I came with this dark side of my soul. And it's fair enough, you know, you come against different energies here, and there's some dark energies here, you know. So this has to be looked at and faced, and always with the glory of love in your heart. I always want to try and help people. I don't know that now myself, you know, and that gives you, we're all good people really, but we have to have these battles with the dark energy. We can't think it's all roses and I'm all spiritual. No, you have to do the work. You have to do the work, you know. And this is what I'm very grateful for now, because I think through that, I've like the connection with nature and keeping with the food. I've always eaten healthy all the way through. That's kept me solid, you know. And then you sort of from there, things are going to happen. You have to sort of go through them. So Ibiza will make you look in the mirror.
Exactly. I think that's what comes to me, is like, you know, a lot of because there are dark experiences over there, and we've all had it, but you know, you're being actually made to confront some of the darkness in yourself, and as you say, in the darkness in your past and in your ancestry, you know, you are made to confront that, and you can either see that in the end as an internal experience, or you can keep blaming. Do you know what I mean?
If you stay on the city, like normal system living, like it's not Ibiza, it's anywhere you can go where you can just be out of the system really, and be living a bit more, not looking at the clock from 9 to 5 and going with the flow of what's going on in your life and the interaction with people and all that. That's what happened to me. But the thing is like, if you don't do that, you're not going to go anywhere. So what happens here, you come here, you get really high, we get really free. Ibiza's like, way, and everyone's like, but then you're gonna, from that height, you have to go then deep down. And that's what this does. It shakes you right up, and it's an intense island. And it definitely is that. And I'm sure there's places all over the world that have that intensity, not only Ibiza. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just, I think there's a lot of ley lines going over here. I mean, I've climbed Esvedra, and that was an amazing experience because that place pulsates. Esvedra has like this pulsating energy on it when you're there.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing. I climbed that 3 times back in the day when you could. Well, they didn't really let you over there then, but we got over in a private boat and we went over a few times. I climbed it twice, been there 3 times, like around it and that. It's amazing. And that's what a proof is, that the Ibiza for some has some heavy energy here, like shifting energy.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And when you, like you say, my experience over there was that it's either, the sublime to the ridiculous all the time, isn't it? You're either absolutely high, or you are in the depths, and it goes up and down and up and down. And it's like being sort of dunked, isn't it, into this experience, but amazing. Shapes.
And then there comes a calm, because I am now living the calm. I really am, and I really hold on to that calm. And that is my service with the food. I've been working at different establishments the last sort of month, trying out what it's like to be in a restaurant again. But I realized it came to me. I had to do that to realize, no, Wendy, what are you doing? You have your food ready. I have my menus. I have to. All it is for me is connecting with people now and helping them change their diet, because I've actually upgraded my diet the last maybe 4 or 5 years to a more raw vegan diet. I'm not vegan. I still eat eggs, local eggs, and I will eat cheese that comes from a goat or a sheep. I stopped doing dairy 4 years ago, at least, cow dairy, because it was too heavy on the body. I was like that, it's like your digestive system. So then you start connecting with your body more and more with the food. And I'm now more, I'm like 75% raw,
Wow.
Which really, which is not a big wow, really. Think about it. Fruit in the morning, spirulina. I take my spirulina. I've been taking 25 years I've been on spirulina, and I suggest that everyone gets on something very green, because we need the green for our body. It helps us detox. It helps. Spirulina gives you great energy. I've got Kathy on it, and she's changed so much. Kathy?
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
And she feels so great. She's been on it nearly a month now, and the difference in her, because she was all foggy. So this is just, and I've been on it a long, long time. So that's my fan is spirulina.
Then
you do your fruit. So I have 3 bits of fruit a day. Then there's a salad always. That's a raw salad. Then I'm eating nuts and seeds in a sauce. And before you know it, and then maybe I'll eat some cooked sweet potato and rice, and that's cooked. Okay, quinoa. But it's not such a big thing to be selling. You're just watching it. I'd say eat a lot of fresh vegetables now, everybody, and lots of fruit, because it'll change your energy and it helps our DNA change up. It helps us grade up. Because if you're putting dead energy into your body, it's not going to help your frequency go up. And we're all moving upwards. So just, if you think of it like that, it's not about killing the animals, I want to eat meat, I do, I don't. It's just about what's better for you, as in feeling great every day and looking good and feeling your energy going up. Because I certainly feel younger than I did 5 years ago. And I'm actually 5 years older.
No, you look amazing, and you genuinely do seem to be, getting younger in your appearance, like over like a decade has. You do look younger.
I was heavy. I was holding on to a lot of negativity, which I've worked out. I've cried rivers the last year or so. I mean, since COVID, I took the opportunity, and luckily I could, because I wasn't really working. I mean, I don't know if that was good or bad, but in the end, I've gone so deep down. And my father died, and I've really cleared a lot of, and I love him so much. And me and him were so connected. Well, I had to do the work, that I lost my brother. He took his own life when he was younger. And it was like, there's all this stuff that I had to be cleared out. And I've cleared all that out. And I suggest everyone, if they have stuff like that, to clear out. And all it is, is going into yourself and then releasing and remembering. It's weird. I don't know. I've learned a lot how to do that now. And I'm wondering whether I should apply that or help people with that, because there's natural energy that's in our trauma body. And I've actually seen it and felt it. So it comes up. It's like a fizziness. And you know, when you get goose pimples on your body, this is energy coming up, and then it'll come up and up. And it's actually spinning. And I've seen it spinning left in my traumas. And then I've gone through it and crying in depth and on my own now. You have to do this on your own really as well. You can get a therapy to help you, but in the end of the day, you have to help yourself. You have to. There's a lot of teachers out there saying, oh, follow my way, follow this way, follow that way. It's a deep, I mean, look, some people aren't traumatized, some people didn't have any trauma, but most people have got some trauma because we're living in a trauma society. The whole fucking society is trauma. You know, it's all dark and it's all for money and materialism, and it's not. And our cells are crying out, first of all, for nutrition, because we're not feeding them properly. So that's an anxiety, first of all. We get anxiety from that. The cells are not being nourished. The cells give us anxiety. Then that anxiety is coming into our heart. And then the whole system, and then, you know, and you're on this energy that's like this the whole time. Then we have to take that back. And I think we have to change the energy to the right. I saw it in myself. I don't know. I'm just sharing this really openly. So when I was in this, I was then feeling the energy. Was I cried and cried and cried, went down, felt the memory, and then the energy started spinning right again, you know, in myself. And I felt it released, you know, and I've done that a few times, maybe 4 or 5 times. And I felt pain in my body when it happened there. I had a very strong pain in my shoulder. I had pain down here on the hips. So my mother hips, my father shoulder. It was so obvious, but that was my finding out. But I suggest that everyone goes in and finds their way, because when I released all that, it was a clearing from the family then, and also with the diet. You know, that changed. As I say, I eat really clean as I can do. I don't drink alcohol either now. I stopped that years ago. It's, you know, it's okay, but be careful with that because it just brings us down.
No, to be honest, I mean,
it's hard though.
I don't find it hard. What I find hard is letting go of that person who enjoyed a drink.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we do.
Because that's the bit for me that, like, luckily I've never ever drank alone.
No, I've
never drank in the house on my own. I always drank out with people.
Yeah, me too.
So being on my own, once you become a mother of young children, you're in a lot, aren't you? You're in the house a lot. So luckily I don't have that temptation to drink. What I find really hard is being out in a social situation.
Yeah. Well, I
still have a drink. I'm not battling it because I still do it. I have a drink. But when I feel the next day, and it's not a hangover, it's like a depression or an anxiety or
it's weird, isn't it? I know. It's like, for what? I don't know why that is.
Because my system genuinely is so clean that I'm fully vegetarian. I'm not eating meat for a long, long time, but I've not fully got rid of dairy yet. I know that's the next step. Your body tells you, doesn't it, what the next...
And you still have goat's cheese and sheep cheese. It's not about the dairy, it's the molecule.
Yeah, it's the
cow. Animal. And just not in excess, you know, some fermentation. We need some fermentation. I mean, if you... that's what I'm saying. I'm not preaching all be vegan and raw, but I apply it a lot in my food. But I won't, you know, but maybe I would be a lot better if I gave the whole thing up. But I'm not, you know, you're not hurting anything. I don't feel too much of a negative energy. From the byproduct of an animal. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but in the end of the day, probably vegan is better. You know, they say it's better for our ascension.
It's a massive change, because obviously I've been back 2 years now. I've been back in the UK 2 years now. Unfortunately, you know, as you know, my dad was dying, so I had to come home in 2020.
Well, God bless him.
I know, bless him. But it's funny because I resonate so much with what, you know, we both lost our dad, haven't we, in the last 2 years, and it's
so much. It's weird, isn't it? You just miss chatting to them and like, hey dad. The other day I said that in my voice, and I thought he was sitting there. My voice went, hey dad, and I was like, wait, I just felt he was there, and probably was.
But they are.
Yeah.
But I've not done that. I've not done that really. That thing that you were talking about then, that release of, I know that there is a ball of grief in me that I'm not ready to confront yet, that I need to shift. I need to shift it out of me, because I am so unhealthily detached from what happened.
Yeah.
Like I'm breathing on with life when I know that the weight of losing that man from my life is somewhere within me, because he was my person. Like, he was, you know, out of all of my family, it was an all-female family, he was my person. And that was the, you know, it's funny.
I see myself in him though, because I don't know, I'm really like my dad. I look at my hands and I see my dad's hands. So actually, it's beautiful in a way. You've kind of got them in you. I was physically much like him and essence of him. And I think that's because we are, you know, we're souls that know each other from without a body. And that's why we're feeling that. But I think it's wonderful. I'm learning what grief is. And grief is only because you can't love them physically. That's all it is. What else is it?
When he was really, really sick, like when he was like, he you know, the poor man was he suffered, bless him. And when he was really sick, I did happy. I don't know if you've ever done that, where it's a plant medicine from tribes, and I'm not going to embarrass myself by saying the wrong place, but it's a plant medicine that's been used, and I get the feeling it's South America, but I could be wrong. And it's blown up your nose in a pipe, and it takes you into your heart. And he was literally about 2 weeks from dying, as I know now. But when everyone else in this ceremony went to this deep, joyful, like, bliss, I pooed, was sick, was like, and I literally felt my heart was broken. Like, I was literally, it was the most painful experience. And I cried and I cried and I cried in front of this room full of people, and like I say, vomiting, booing, all this. And like, but I felt what I felt inside of this heartbreak was, I felt him trapped in this broken body. And I remember going in and going, you just have to leave. You just have to leave and go and get out of the body, because I could feel how awful that felt.
Yeah.
I went into his body and felt how awful that felt to be in a cancer-ridden body. You know, and was like, get out, just go. So when he actually did die a couple of weeks later, I remember the feeling of the freedom from that situation. And I felt like, wow, he's now not in that sensation, which was so horrible to feel. But when I felt that he'd gone from it, it was like all I could feel was elation and like happiness, and obviously, you know, grief for myself. But, you know, I actually felt he's gone from that. That must have been the most horrendous feeling in the world. So like, I'm so happy that you're now not there, you know.
It's a burden. This is why we you know, it's hard. This is another reason why I'm kind of really want to look after the body for my last days as well, for the conscious finishing. I'd really like, I mean, you know that you can choose when to go. You can actually get to a level of meditating where you actually choose to leave. I mean, for example, Satguru, I don't know if you know him, he's one of the masters coming up a lot. His wife, she actually took voluntary death. She was a talker, you know, she learned how to go. You can learn to go that. And I'm meditating on that, you know, I'm meditating on to be passed through when I want to. Because I think we can get to that level. I don't know, but I've been told about this. So that's another reason why I get too old. I'm 60 in 3 years. Well, what am I now? Yeah, I'm 60 in 3 years' time. It's like, God's sake, you know. So you kind of get to a point in your life where you want to be more benevolent, really, isn't it? You know, like with everything. I don't know. Like, you know, we're coming to a different era of our life. So I'm on that now, because death is so much fear around death, where it's just the next transition. You know, we have to know that. So
but I think definitely this combination of caring with food for yourself and energetically clearing, you know, these things are that you get stuck, these situations or feelings that you don't deal with, 100% in my eyes become something much more serious, you know. And that was, you know, that's been overwhelmingly clear to me in the last few years, you know, that there is, you can get your there's outside things like injuries that mean something, but then if you don't deal with it, it goes in and it is destructive. It destroys you from the inside out.
Body,
so I think
you hold it there, and that's what keeps us heavy. That's what gives us addictions. This is the heavy energy. We have to deal with it, because then once it's gone, it's easy. You think, well, I've got this problem, and it's impossible to get rid of that problem unless you go deeper in to get to see why that problem is happening. You know, I mean, it's easy to talk it, but I think just be open with your heart. Always walk in love and in the presence, and then it will come to you. If we can't stay in the past, we really can't. I tell a lot of people that now. So stay in the present as much as possible. Say, you know, like, forgive yourself as well for lots of things, because we're too hard on ourselves. We really are hard on ourselves, you know. So we have to come from the heart and be kind to ourselves first, and then we can be kind to everybody else. But we're really hard on ourselves with our thoughts, with everything. And then on top of that, we, you know, with our bodies, putting whatever into it. So basically, it's a wake-up call, and it's a clean-up call. It's a shake-up call. It's like, you know, just becoming vigilant of ourselves, really. Know thyself. Well, be vigilant of thyself, I'd say. Do you know what I mean? I'm watching myself the whole time now, more than ever, because I haven't got time to lose the good feeling I feel now. So I'm going forward. That's what I've got in my head every day. Come on. It's hard,
maintain it, you know. And I think
with the food, if you just eat lightly, we have to, food, everyone's addicted to food. That's one big addiction, man. More than drugs and alcohol. So if we go back to food, back to health, it changes a lot, and then we can get rid of other addictions and our habits we've got. But there's no way, if you're eating shit food, there's no way you can clean up your body. You know, you can't on any level. You can't. And that's what we were badly informed, and we've been lied to. And the industry, the food industry, is disgusting. So basically, it's going back to fresh foods, keeping it simple, you know, and being creative. There's lots of stuff online now to help you. There really is. You know, there's alternatives for the vegans, the cashew creams. I make almond mayonnaise using nuts and seeds. I would suggest bring nuts and seeds into your life because they're really good for us. You know,
well, you've got a wealth of. I mean, we'll put the links under the video here to your well, we've got all the links to your site on our to your Instagram and stuff on our webpage anyway, but we'll put the links in, because you've got some amazing ideas. I mean, you know, the stuff that you're
I need to do about a new website. I'm going to do this after the summer. I'm going to make another website, and I'm going to do some teaching, because I prefer being physically, you know. I'm going to try and get a place to do teaching here, but I will do something online, because a lot of people that I've met over the years of cooking, obviously people on retreats from all over the world, and I've cooked for people, and those people can't physically get together, and they've always said to me, please do something online, like a workshop or some, like 10 classes. So I'm going to try and do that this winter, because I really just want, for me, it's a service to help people change their diet. I'm an alchemist of the food. You know. Nature's given us food, and then we transform it into our bodies, and then the body becomes well again, you know. We can become well.
Yeah, I think it's medicine, isn't it? At the end of the day, if used correctly, it's medicine or it's poison. Yes. And I certainly feel here, you know, since coming back, like I mean, it genuinely, and I'm not sort of making excuses here, but it's genuinely harder to eat good here, because the en masse, cheap, you know, level of stuff that is here available to buy, you know, and the total, like, you know, very, very simple thing like that I, you know, noticed in Spain, both on mainland and on the islands. You know, your chocolate section in the supermarket, for example, is a bay. You know, it's a bay of stuff, and it's expensive, and it's, you know, it's not something necessarily that sits well in the heat or anything like that. Here, it is a full aisle. You know, it's like 10 foot high.
Temptation.
I'm serious. Like, and it's shiny, and it's
all around.
You know, I mean, I literally find it hard to go into a shop with my two small children, because they are being sold to all the time, and they are being sold to at such a young, tender age, absolute poisonous stuff. And I've seen a massive difference. I had, you know, big weight problems when I was a child, like, that were emotional. But as soon as I went to live in Spain, I never ever had an issue with my weight. I was always a very healthy weight. My skin was good. My gut health was good, etc.
Yeah, me too. I completely transformed with a feeling of
coming back here. Like, my weight is up and down, and it's emotional stomach. It's hormonal stomach weight that I've never had in years and years and years. And it's the food, and it's the water supply. I'm telling you now, I know that there is there is hormonal imbalances from the food that I am taking in, and it's just, I've made some steps. I'm getting a veg box delivered now weekly, and this and that.
Exactly. Try and go to the farm shops and that. So I remember when I go back to see my mum, I can't wait. I'm going to go and see her in August. I so want to see her now. We've been seeing each other for 2 years. Yeah. And I was saying, now I go to the farm. She goes, there's luckily where she lives, there's like little farm shops and places like that. And I mean, my dad was 90 when he died, and my mum's 86, and they've always eaten healthy. So I mean, it did come from them. My mum's always cooked fresh. I mean, and back in the day, I mean, really, they did come from that era when they had no choice, but luckily my mum in the 60s, she didn't go too far into start buying pre-packeted stuff. She carried on traditionally cooking. My family were gardeners and they were butchers. So it's a mixture thing, but it's always been with the food. So it comes through in the end, you know? Yeah.
My mum was the same. And one of the things I'm so grateful for, and I'm talking about her in the past tense, she's still alive, thank God. But, when we were young, we ate home cooking. She cooked meals. She cooked meals with ingredients in our fridge. Ingredients.
But bring your kids up the first 6 or 7 years of the kid's life. It's so important what they eat.
I've seen, good mates of mine have come back. Dinner is a load of packets that come out and it are reheated. Like, I'm so lucky in that I know how to put a soup together. I know how to, I've got those skills from my mum, thank God. And my dad, worked in the newspaper industry for 40 odd years, but after he retired when I was young, he got an allotment and he was in his element. That was this thing was like
that's the way forward. Everyone having a bit of green to plant their veg. That's what we've all got to do, we all of us have.
Satisfaction he gained from that connection, because he was from farming people from Ireland, so he reconnected in his last 17 years with the land, and that transformed his personality and his calmness and his, it made him the person he was probably always meant to be, actually. And I think that, we have those influences not too many generations back, because the city hasn't, but there's only been a few generations of city life, and most of us are blowing.
Exactly. Well, take it back to that. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Brilliant. That's it. So we've just gone too far those years of that, and we will go back to the other because there's nowhere for where else are we going to go? And all the corporates are falling down now. They're saying there's no food in the shops. You know why there's no food? Because they're not going to be making them anymore, because it's illegal to put that stuff on our plates. It's poison. So one thing that's really interesting here that's happened, I don't know, there's these sections in the supermarkets which are all like, they're companies like Dolce Sol and that, and they sell all these cakes.
It
came out on the news on the news here that will be finishing, but they will not be selling them. That means because these corporates are so dark, they're now falling. They're falling, and these companies there won't be those cakes anymore. Well, I mean, I've never eaten them anyway, but I mean, they're all there, and people are like these bollitos and so that's a great wake-up call. I was like, wow, if they're saying it's still in the shops, but so we're hearing on another thing, so there's a few short supply for food. Yeah, there will be, of all the rubbish, so we don't want it. We have to start planting our own food, or at least buying.
It's about getting your supply. You've flipped round there. But now I know you're preparing for a job today, so I'm not going to keep you much longer, Wendy, because I really appreciate you fitting me in today. But
it's been great talking to you. Never.
What I would like to sort of just touch on before we go. Now, I remember you saying to me long before pandemic and things like that Ibiza was moving from the island of party back into the island of health and retreats, and because that was what you were working in. You could see that shift happening. This was long before a pandemic. Now, obviously, I've been out of the island for a couple of years. What are you seeing as the shape of what's happening over there post-pandemic? Because obviously it's been a big hit from tourism.
Now it's kicked off again. I mean, these last 2 years for me, I wasn't really doing many retreats because my clients weren't coming over, and I wasn't really putting it out there. And now I was, it was good that I had the time off last year really to grieve and go through all the stuff I did with my family. So now, and then as I said to you earlier, I was going to go and work in a restaurant, and I was there for a few weeks here and there at different places. I was thinking, what are you doing? And I was like, back to retreats, because it's full on. People ringing me up, retreats, and that's where I have to be, because it's where I touch the people. I just want to help people change their diet. It's not about being a good chef. I've been cooking like this all my life. It's no big deal, you know, but it is a big deal that I connect to people now and help them change their diet. That's what I do. So, and this is why I want to try and do a website and probably go online a bit more and not, you know, and help people. Just sort of like a few little little changes in your diet, and you know, just to bring a frequency up. That's my message. We can be a lot. We are amazing humans. We're amazing people. We have an amazing body. If you really think about what the body's doing, I mean, it's so intelligent, this body. So where's our intelligence for our body that's so intelligent? You know, it's not fair. And I've got this feeling for myself now. I really just want to look after this vehicle until the end, because then I know I'll be getting on the right vehicle for the next. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like a step by step. But we haven't been taught this. We've been in a harsh world all these years. But it's self-love. Comes back to self-love. And this island is about self-love, because we all came here partying, but really and truly that was self-love, because we were sick of the system. We've been sick of all these rules and regulations and lies, and it's been big lies, huh? So now it's a wake-up call. And Ibiza, you know, my brother, and I lost him, God bless him, but he came here in '83. He was the one that found the island for all our gang, and he came back. He spent 3 weeks here, and he went to Formentera for a week. Came back and he said, it's a really big party island, he said, but I saw triangles and healing going on. And this was '83, and we were going, you're off your head, man, what are you talking about? But I've got his writings, and he said to me, Ibiza is a healing island. And that was in the '80s, when everyone was just going party. But it was always a healing island, because all the artists went there. If you look back in the '60s, I mean, Jesse's father got there in the '60s, the end of the '60s, and it was all bohemians, artists walking around. You've seen the pictures. It was beautiful, you know. So yeah, there's a healing energy here, and there's an energy that we connect to our souls and be the person that we're meant to be, you know. We live a soul life.
The Romans used to send the injured soldiers there for healing, didn't they? As like it was a rest and recuperation island. So I think there's been
very true. That's a good point. Yeah.
The hedonism was it's such a duality, isn't it? But I think that's, you know, the hedonism, whatever happens in the world, it is the version of it in Ibiza is an extreme. And I know you're right, there will be other places in the world that have that magnetism that, you know, we've not been to, that have that same, you know,
we are duality, you know, we have to live in duality. You can't be walking around going all like, you know, we're warriors as well, and we're still going to get angry, even if we're spiritual. But I'm getting angry in the name of love, the name of love and health. You know, that's where I am at. You don't have, you know, and it's all for the positive, because we need that energy to push us forward as humans, and as a beautiful family. We are a family. You know, this is the dividing point, which they've tried to bring in. We have the duality in us, but it's here. But what they've done is bring it here, so it's separating us. You know, but actually the duality is in us all. But then we just stay in the center and connect here. But they've turned it round. You understand? It's like the system has turned it round on us.
Yeah. But I think that's one other lesson that we learn over there, in terms of connection to other people, because it's so strong. You know, we become family over there, don't we? Because you're all sort of out on a limb on your own. That you know, we really do. The connections you make there. The connections you make there, you'll always be connected for a lifetime. You know,
there's got ley lines going over it. You know that they've got ley lines going over our beach, and that. If you look on the map, it's a special energy here, which is, as we say, going over various places in the world. You know, I think that place from the Canary Islands, it's called Fuerteventura, the little island off near the. Is it? I've never been there, but apparently that's like that's still like the old Ibiza, and apparently it's very magical there. There's huge ley lines going through it. Have you ever been there? I've never been there.
No.
I've been to Gran Canary, but I never went to the little one. Apparently it's like the old Ibiza. It hasn't been touched, and the corporates haven't got there so much, so it's still like that, you know. Unfortunately, Ibiza has, but I find that the corporate people is turning away a bit now from Ibiza. The big buzz of it all, it's done us a favour having COVID, because it kind of cut that in the middle. Let's see anyway, but it's gone more exclusive, but that's okay. But before it was like really getting ugly and big and only that, you know. But I think as a community, what we've got to do now, and what's happening, I can see it, is everyone's coming back to their community. So it's all getting back to our communities now, and being good people in our communities, and from that growing. And we've got, like, now here, luckily we've got our local vegetables, like little farm, you know, just up the road there's that Terra Massa, where you can go and buy your own veg. You can go and do voluntary work there. for 2 hours or 3 hours and get some veg in a box for free. That's what it's going to be now, and it is happening again, which is exchange, you know, without money, which is what Ibiza always was. Ibiza was the barter, you know, they call it trick or true, or there's a name for it, trick or treat, which is all bartering without money.
Yeah,
we can move as a community, you know, if we do that. But it's up to the people. It's up to everybody in their own heart to come back to their hearts, come back to who they really are, and come from that space, you know. And then it changes a lot, you know. We're very simple, we're very amazing human beings, basically.
Definitely.
You know?
Oh, it's been an absolute joy to speak to you on so you and you know, I'll let you get on with your day now, but thank you so much. That has been
it's been lovely talking to you.
Pearl after pearl after pearl of wisdom, so thank you very much. I'm sure this won't be our last chat for the site, and I'll speak to you in the week anyway, so all right.
Lots, Franky, and keep up the light, keep shining that light, darling.
And you love you, darling. Bye now.
Bye.